Let me read the opening stanza. Father, when he passed on, left dust on a table full of papers, left debts and daughters, a bed-wetting grandson, named by the toss of a coin after him. Before I start dissecting these lines, I would like to say a few words about the title of the poem, Obituary. Like Nizim Ezekiel, A.K.Ramanujan saw significance in every aspect of the poem. He refused to neglect any part of the body of the poem. He particularly believed that the title of the poem is a very important part of the body of the poem because it is that part of the body of the poem which strikes the eye of the reader first. Naturally, understandably, Ramanujan chose titles very carefully for his poems. What is the title of the poem under discussion? Obituary. What is the meaning of the word? An obituary is a death notice. An obituary is a death notice usually published in a newspaper containing some of the details of the life of the dead person. It is written by a journalist, frequently by a staff reporter. An obituary obviously is not a place for displaying emotionalism, for exhibiting sentimentality. It is something matter of fact. I would like to claim that the title of the present poem is a very carefully chosen title, which makes some important proclamations about the nature of the poem. Earlier we read a poem by A.K. Ramanujan on his mother. It is difficult for a son, especially for an Indian son, to write about his mother and avoid the pitfall of sentimentality. But A.K. Ramanujan succeeds in doing that. And the intention of the poet is proclaimed by the title of that poem, Orph Mothers, among other things. First, the poet pluralizes the term mother. Then he places the pluralized term among other things. The title of the poem makes it very clear that it's going to be a very unconventional poem. A poem which will not romanticize its subject, which will not emotionalize and sentimentalize its subject. That poem has a rather long title, Orph Mothers, among other things. The present poem is a very short title, just one word, Obituary. Here too the goal is the same. The proclamation is the same. The poet wants to make it very clear that it is not a typical poem written by a son about his father, in which he praises his father to the skies, in which he declares that his father was an ideal in every sort of way, in which he claims that he misses his father profoundly. On the other hand, it is an obituary. It's a death notice. It is like a death notice published in a newspaper written by a third person. Thus the poet desentimentalizes the subject, de-emotionalizes the subject, makes it very clear that you can expect unconventional things in the body of the poem, even revolutionary things in the body of the poem. And this expectation is amply fulfilled, because in the poem the father is reduced to a laughing stock. The poet does not praise his father. Instead he ridicules his father. He mocks his father. He makes fun of his father. He, with great gusto, points out the weaknesses in the life, in the character of his father. I think this is the first time in Indian poetry in English that a son writes about his father in such an unconventional manner. That a son subjects his father to such ruthless ridicule, such ruthless satire. Not for nothing is A.K. Ramanujan called the greatest ironist in Indian poetry in English. Now, let us take a look at the first stanza of the poem. Father, when he passed on. Father. It is not my father, it is just father. It is clear from the first word of the poem, the first word, the first line of the poem, that the obituary is that of the speaker's father. We are going to read the obituary of the speaker's father. Father. And after you complete reading the poem, you will understand that the word father, which appears as the first word of the first line of the poem, as the first word of the poem, is never again repeated. Is never again repeated. These are all techniques used by the poet to establish a distancing between speaker and subject. It is not my father, but just father. And the word father is never again repeated. Father, when he passed on. Passed on. To pass on means to die. It's like pass away. Pass away means to die. Pass on means to die. But I think pass on is a softer euphemism, is a more refined euphemism than pass away. Why does the poet not say father when he died? He wants to establish, as I said, establish the distancing between speaker and subject by using the rather formal term pass on. The distancing is reinforced. This is a rather unconventional poem where the father is going to be subjected to ridicule, to satire, to irony at the hands of the son who is a gifted poet. Father when he passed on. Father when he died.